Quadrafuzz 2 is a very powerful plugin with many tricks up its sleeve, and in this video I'm going to show you 5 tips you should know about. Let's get started. As you might know, in its core, Quadrafuzz 2 is a multi-band tape, tube saturation and distortion unit, but there are many more things that you can do with it. So I'm going to start with tip number 1. Quadrafuzz 2 can be a solid low-end enhancer, and I'm going to show you my favorite way to use Quadrafuzz 2 as a low-end enhancer. The fact that it's a multi-band means that you can process the low end in a different fashion than, let's say, the low mids, the high mids and the highs. So you can leave all these territories alone, but just use it as a low-end enhancer. And how? Here's my favorite settings. My favorite mode is tube. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate tube as my saturation type for my low end, and I'm going to select one of those 2 options, either the 2 tubes or the 3 tubes. Let's have a listen. And as you can see, it makes a dramatic difference when it comes to the low end. It almost acts like a low-end enhancer. And as you can see, I haven't even touched the drive in this case. So if you want, of course, you can add more of it. But most of the times for mastering situations, I find that this is already a little bit too much, especially for mastering. If it's a single track in a mix, this will work just fine. But when it comes to mastering, if I start driving it more, it's a little bit too much. So no problem with that. What you can do is you can just turn down the mix a little bit. And this way you can blend this process with your dry mix. And then the beautiful thing is you can find the magic blend between the drive knob here and the mix. So you might want to drive it a little bit more, but you have the mix a little bit lower. But this will definitely help if your mix is a little bit weak in the low end, because it can generate this low end thump that you might be missing. Tip number 2 is you can use Quadrafuzz 2 as a stereo widener, but also you can turn specific frequency bands in mono. So that means that you can have your low end be nice and compact, so you can make it completely mono, and then you can spread out, for example, the highs or the high mids. So let me show you a very quick example. I'm going to play the same track, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my low end completely mono, and then I'm going to spread the other bands a little bit. Let me show you. So because this is multi-band, it allows you this flexibility where you can have something completely mono and something a little bit more spread out in the stereo field. Tip number 3, and something that some people miss when it comes to Quadrafuzz, is that even though it's a multi-band processor, you can actually turn it into single band. So for example, let's say I want to add a little bit of a gentle tape saturation or tube saturation to a vocal, but I don't want necessarily to have it split into separate bands. What I can do is I can activate this SB button here, and this will basically give me a single band version of Quadrafuzz. So let me show you.
Soy el fuego que arde tu piel, soy el agua que mata tu sed, el castillo, la torre, yo soy la espada que guarda el caudal.
And this means that I can still, of course, blend this with the original vocal if I want to.
Soy el fuego que arde tu piel, soy el agua que mata tu sed, el castillo, la torre, yo soy la espada que guarda el caudal, tú el aire que respiro.
So sometimes when a single band is all you need, just make sure you activate single band mode. The next tip that I want to show you, and again, it's something that some people miss, is that Quadrafuzz has a really powerful delay section. So for example, I have this drum loop right here, and I'm going to play it for you. Now, if I want to add a little bit of movement to this drum loop, Quadrafuzz has a delay unit built in. So if I press one of these buttons here, you will see that I have a separate delay module for each band. We can set up our delay time, we can sync it to the tempo, we also have a feedback with distortion, so we can have the distortion go through the feedback loop. We also have ducking, so if you want to make sure that your delays will not clash with the elements of your program material, you can just turn up the ducking here. And it also has a mix knob per band, so you can have more delay, let's say, in the high mids and less delay or no delay in the low end. So I'm going to play this loop and you can see how we can transform it. And you can see that I can activate distortion for my feedback there as well. So in this case, I have a triplet delay for my low mids, and I also have a 16th note delay for my high mids. So as you can see, I can spice up a drum loop very, very easily. Let's listen without Quadrafuzz. Conventional. Pretty nice, but now we have a way more complex loop going on. So make sure you play with the different delays right there. It's a lot of fun. And the last tip I want to share with you about Quadrafuzz is the scenes that we have here. So these allow you to be very creative, and you can compare different settings with Quadrafuzz very easily because it's a quite complex plugin with many different parameters. So you might want to jump between different settings and see what works best. So in this case, I'm going to use the same loop and I'm going to jump between different scenes. And for example, if I want to create a variation of scene number 1, I can copy it and then paste it to, let's say, scene number 5, and I can do my changes here. So now I can go from scene number 1 to scene number 5, to scene number 4, So there you go. These are 5 tips that you should know about Quadrafuzz. I hope you have loads of fun with this plugin that we have in Cubase, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.